negative, I know I'm going to rotate clockwise. So this would be 0. And then I'm counting by half of whatever this number is. So what's half of 6? 3. So this would be 3 over 6. 1 second. Negative 3 pi over 6. And then I'm counting by 3. So this would be negative 6 pi over 6. And then what would be at the top? What's 6 plus 3? Not 12. 9. Yep. Negative 9 pi over 6. And then 0 would be the same as negative 12 pi over 6. So my initial side is here. And I'm rotating to quadrant 2. And that would be my 7 pi, negative 7 pi over 6. That would be my angle. So now we need to add and subtract 2 pi. So we have negative 7 pi over 6 plus 2 pi. It's on my desk. The unit circle paper, yeah, it's on my desk. And we're adding 2 pi. But in order to add fractions, we need to have a common denominator. So what do I need to multiply 2 pi by? By who? 6. By 6, yep. Good job. So go ahead and take negative 7 pi over 6 plus 12 pi over 6. And then do negative 7 pi over 6 minus 12 pi over 6. See what you get. That's what, 360 degrees. So you're adding and subtracting 360 degrees. But in radians, that's equivalent to 2 pi. Yeah, you gotta get a common denominator. I think your quiz is going to be 2 weeks from today. But I'll let you all know for sure tomorrow. So here you would get negative 7 plus 12 is positive 5. 5 pi over 6. And negative 7 minus 12 is negative 19. And that's it. All right, so now we're going to learn how to convert. So again, just so you're not tempted, put away your calculators because we're going to do some long division and we're going to do some multiplication. Hopefully we know our multiplication facts because we need them. All right, so take a minute and copy this down. Now, I wouldn't copy down B and C because this is probably going to take some space. So I'll give you a minute. Just copy down A. We'll do one at a time. So we're going to learn how to convert an angle that's in degrees to radians. If I want to convert an angle that's in degrees to radians, you need to multiply by pi over 180. That's what you're going to multiply by. So if I multiply 50 degrees by pi over 180, then I get 50 pi over 180. Now we need to reduce that. If you have two numbers that end in 0, that means that they can be divided by 10. So we can cancel out these zeros because there's one in the top and one in the bottom. So my final answer would be 5 pi over 18. That is what 50 degrees is equivalent to. So 50 degrees equals 5 pi over 18. Just like you have to convert inches to feet or yards to meters or whatever, we're going from degrees to radians. Okay. So now let's look at B, negative 75. Go ahead and copy that down. We're multiplying this by pi over 180. So that would be negative 75 over 180. All right, what number goes into 75 and 180? 5. So let's go off to the side. Long division. Go ahead and figure out what you get when you divide 5 into 75 and 5 into 180. You all remember how to do long division? Okay. What did you get for 5 going into 75? How many times was 5 going to 75? 15. Who got 15 times? All right, that's what I got. How many times does 5 go into 180? 36. So now we have reduced this down to negative 15 pi over 36. Can I go down lower? Is there a number that goes into 15 and 36? 3. Let's do it again. Divide 15 by 3 and 36 by 3. Don't say it out loud. So you're going to put, you keep going down until you can't go down anymore. So then that gives me negative 5 pi over 12. Can I go down any lower? Is there a number that goes into 5 and 12? All right, that would be my final answer. So make sure you have this in your notes, this part right here, because this is in the, how do you go from degrees to radians? This is what you do. You have to multiply it by pi over 180. All right, let's do one more. 215. Go ahead and copy that down. Convert that to radians. So that gives us 215 pi over 180. So off to the side, divide 5 into 215, 5 into 180. Now we already did 5 into 180, and we knew that that's 36, so we don't need to redo that math. But go ahead and do 5 into 215. How many times was 5 going to 215? 43. Who got 43? Raise your hand if that's what you got. Okay, good. 43. So now we're down to 43 pi over 36. Can I go down any more? No, 43, I'm pretty sure is a prime number. So that would be your answer. 215 is 43 pi over 36. So now let's go the other direction. Let's go from radians to degrees. When I'm going from radians to degrees, all I'm doing is I just flip this fraction. So now I'm going to go from radians to degrees. We're going to skip over this one. So we'll copy down one at a time. So we're going to start with 5 pi over 6. And we're going to convert that to degrees. So that means we have to flip our conversion. So now we're multiplying by 180 over pi. Okay, so this is where is to our advantage. So first of all, let me back up. Pi is going to cancel because you have one upstairs and one downstairs. So I'm left with 5 times 180 divided by 6. In this case, it doesn't matter which one you do first. You can multiply first and then divide. But what I notice is that I can easily divide the 6 into 180. How many times does 6 divide into 180? 3. So it'd be not 3, but wait. Yeah, so 6 goes into 18 3 times. So how many times does 6 go into 180? 30 times. So I can just change this to 30. So I have 5 times 30. And my final answer is 150. So sometimes it's easier to divide first, and sometimes it's easier to multiply first. Either way, you'll still get the answer, no problem. Go ahead and copy down B. 3 pi over 4, we're going to do it again. So this is my second time going through this lesson. My 5th period said that it's easier to multiply first. Now what I did, they said it wasn't easier. So what I did was I reduced 4 and 180 and changed this to a 2 and a 90. Because I know that both of these numbers can be divided by 2 because they're both even. So then that gave me 3 pi. Well, not 3 pi because pi goes away, sorry. So pi goes away. So that gave me 3 times 90 divided by 2. That's how I did it. Now you don't have to do that. They said they would rather just keep it 3 times 180 and divide it by 4. You get the same answer either way. So there is no shortcut. Either way is going to be, you got to do both. So which way do you want me to work through? Do you want me to work through this one? Or how many of you all would do this? Would anybody do this? No? Okay, well, let's not do it. All right, so let's take 3 times 180. So we got 0 times 3 is 0. 8 times 3 is 24. Carry the 2. So I have 540. Now I'm going to take the 4, divide that into 540. So I already multiplied by 3. Now I'm going to divide the answer I got by 4. So figure out how many times does 4 go into 540. Four goes into 14 3 times. 4 goes into 25 times. So 135 degrees would be my answer. All right, one more, and then we'll start filling in our unit circle. Go ahead and copy down D. I skipped over C. Let's go to D. So what I have is -3 times 180 over 10. Now this is one that I think everybody would probably divide first. All right, because 10, how many times does 10 go into 180? So that's what I would definitely, I would not personally, okay, you do what you want to do, but I would definitely do this before I multiply, because that's going to make my multiplication easier. Okay, so 180 over 10 can reduce down to just 18 and 1. So you're left with just -3 times 18. So go ahead and multiply off to the side. Take 18 times 3. So it'll be -3 times 18 over 1. But of course, if your denominator is 1, we can discard it. All right, go ahead off to the side. Take 18 times 3. So who got 54? Is that right? 54 degrees? So 54 degrees, negative, don't forget the negative. -54 degrees is what -3 pi over 10 converts to. All right, so now we're going to start working on our unit circle, y'all. So let's pull it out. I know it looks intimidating, but I've been teaching. You will have to fill out the entire unit circle by memory. And I'll tell you, I think it's 3 minutes. I think you get 3 minutes to fill it out. So today, we're only going to do the top half. But I will tell you that it's a pattern. If you know the first quadrant, then you know all of them, because it's just a reflection. So first of all, let's talk about what is the unit circle. You don't need to write this down, but this is homework 2. This is due next Thursday. Now, this one is out of the book. I'm going to pass books out Monday, though. Unless y'all really, really want it today. I was going to pass it out Monday. Homework 2 and 3 are out of the textbook, and I'll pass those out. Okay. You don't need to write any of this down. But what is the unit circle? A unit circle is simply a circle with a radius of 1 unit. All right. So when we look at our unit circle, these 4 ordered pairs, that's going to be my left, right, top, and bottom. Okay. The only thing on this slide that you need to write down right now, well, first of all, who remembers SOHCAHTOA from geometry? Sine, cosine, tangent? Okay, there's actually 6. Sine, cosine, tangent, and then each one of these has a sister. So it's sine, cosine, tangent, cosecant, secant, and cotangent. We're not going to talk about this yet. But what I do want you to write at the very top of your unit circle, above where it says the unit circle, I want you to write an ordered pair where you write cosine, and sine, because this is so important to remember. So at the very top of your unit circle, write it on your unit circle at the very top. Make an ordered pair of parentheses and write cosine sine. Your x value is always cosine and the y value is sine. And the way I remember that is that alphabetically, C comes before S, so cosine is always first. So that's something important to remember. So write that on your unit circle. You don't need to memorize this, but I just want to tell you where these come from. The values come from the two special right triangles, 45, 45, 90, and 30, 60, 90. Who remembers that in geometry or learning about it? All right. It's okay if you don't remember it. You don't really need to, but that's where it comes from. All right, so let's start filling in our unit circle, quadrant 1. So we already said that this point here was 1, 0. And at the top, because the radius is 1, that's 0, 1. So let's fill that in. Now let's fill in our degrees. So 0, and then it's always plus 30, plus 45, plus 60. Okay, so it's going to be a 30, 45, 60. And what is my degree up here? 90. So that's your degrees. Now let's fill in the radians. So 0 degrees is the same as 0 radians. Let me do my radians in a different color. So 30 degrees, if you were to take 30 pi over 180, that reduces down to pi over 6. So that would be my first radian. And then this would be pi over 4. And this is pi over 3. And like we said, 90 is the same as pi over 2. All right, so all of these in the middle, these are all fractions. Okay, so what I want you to remember is that all of these have a denominator of 2. So let's go ahead and fill that in. Put a 2, put your 2 at the bottom. And then for our y value, starting here, these 3 numbers, I'm going to count, starting counting at 3 and go backwards, 3, 2, 1. And then looking at these 3 numbers, that starts at 1 and goes up, 1, 2, 3. And the last thing that you need to know is that all of the numerators are under a square root, okay? But if I do the square root of 1, what is the square root of 1? 1. So that's the only one that we don't put a radical over. But I'm going to put a radical above this 3, above both of these 2's, and above that 3. That is quadrant 1. I really just want you to focus on memorizing this quadrant. Because if you know this, remember, cosine starts at 3 and goes backwards. Sine starts at 1 and goes up forward. If you know this, you know the whole unit circle. All right, so let's fill in quadrant 2 and then we'll end there for today. Quadrant 2 is a reflection across. So quadrant 2 reflects across the y-axis. Okay, but remember in quadrant 2, x is negative. So what I want you to do is I want you to think of this as a mirror. Think of this as a mirror. So if it's looking in the mirror, whatever I have here is going to be written here. I want you to write that exactly. Don't flip it, just write it. I know in the mirror it would but no. So we're just going to write it across. So I want you to put your 1/2 and your √3 over 2. And then whatever you have here is going to be the same here. So put your √2 over 2 and your √2 over 2. And then here, you're going to write that here. So you will put your √3 over 2 and your 1/2. And even this point here, even this point reflects over here. So you would put your 1, 0. Now, the only thing you need to keep in mind is when we're in quadrant 2, x is negative. So we need to put a negative in front of every single one of our x values. All right, so now let's fill in our degrees. Remember, you just have to remember 30, 45, 90. So I don't know, I mean, you can write whatever you want, but to get this first one, I'm taking 90 plus 30, 90 plus 30. This is 90 plus 45. And this blank here will be 90 plus 60. That's how I'm getting these angles, okay? So that's why here for my first degrees, I would have 120. And then this will be 135. This is 150. And we already said, well, we already know that this would be 180. In my opinion, the hardest thing to learn is the radians, but a lot of students come up with different patterns. So one of my students made the connection that for 120, you have a 2 over 3, and then it's 3 over 4, and then it's 5, 6. And then you just put your pi at the top. That's how she remembered it. That would be your radians. And what is 180 degrees equal to in radians? Pi. So that's the first 2 quadrants. All right, we're going to fill in the bottom half tomorrow. And I will give you extra copies. I am pretty sure you have 3 minutes to fill in the entire unit circle. If you miss one thing, this is 0 or 100 tests. There is no in between. Either you get it all right and you get 100%. If you miss anything, it's a 0. And you can take this as many times as you need to. So you can take it many times until you get it. So we'll do it in class like 3 or 4 times. Usually by then, most everybody will pass it by then. And if you still need more time, then you can make arrangements to come in and practice with me one-on-one.